What's up, YouTube? Oh, sorry. What's up, YouTube friends? My name is Danny Jones, and welcome to Jones Vibes.
Jones Vibes.
First and foremost, thank you so much for tuning in, and if you enjoy this video, please go ahead and click the like button for me, as well as if you want some more Jones Vibes, go ahead and hit subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell. And today, I wanted to switch things up because we're heading into fall, and you know what that means. Spooky season is upon us, a beautiful time filled with screams and blood and paranormal things. What was that? And there are actually a ton of scary movies coming out this fall that I'm gonna check out. And so before I do, I wanted to make a list of my top 5 favorite scary movies, and we can see how it compares to yours. Also, stick around till the end because I'm going to be shouting out some honorable mentions that you won't want to miss. But without further ado, let's dive in because we all float down here. So, starting at number 5, I have one of the more recent movies to hit my list. It's Ari Aster's Midsommar. And is that how it's pronounced? I feel like every time I say it, there's some country club horror fan that's like, actually, it's Midsommar, yes. But anyway, this movie changed the way that I looked at the horror genre. It has a stacked cast and was my introduction to Florence Pugh, and it's just an absolute trip. Ari Aster is a director that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I'm sure I will many more times, but what he's managed to do with just a few films is absurd. We had Hereditary, and if you haven't seen The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, I highly suggest it. But his style is unlike any other. Him and Mike Flanagan are my two most anticipated film and TV directors right now, and for good reason. And I actually watched Midsommar before I watched Hereditary. And so this was my introduction to his work. This movie blew me away. It's unbelievable what he accomplished. The psychedelic visuals mixed with this claustrophobic plot that ends up flipping upside down and kind of breaking the fabric of what you thought was possible with storytelling. To me, it's a masterpiece, and it'll always deserve to be in this conversation. But since we're talking about masterpieces, it's time to move on to number 4, and this one is my dark horse. The Faculty, directed by Mr. Planet Terror, recently Book of Boba Fett, and even Spy Kids 2, Robert Rodriguez. And you're probably asking yourself, Danny, is this only because Josh Hartnett was an icon of the 90s even more so than Leonardo DiCaprio, and he influenced an entire generation of haircuts? Yes and no. It's mainly because this movie is bitchin'. Aliens take over the faculty of a school, and the students have to take them down. And as a kid, there was something so badass about that, taking the power back. It's in that same vein of being young and being like, I'm gonna get out of this town. It was just so much fun, and the cast was so cool. I wanted to be like them all. You had Usher and Elijah Wood, and even Clea Duvall, just iconic. There's no other words to describe it, and I'll say it again, iconic. And moving on to number 3, this is a movie that's probably on a lot of other people's list. My bronze medal goes to The Shining, directed by the late great Stanley Kubrick, based on the book by Stephen King, and I don't really know if there's much more to be said than already has been said here. What I will say is that I was actually kind of a late bloomer to this one. I watched it in my mid-20s, and it absolutely blew me away. The isolation and the mental ride that puts you on is crazy. There's also little Danny, and obviously he kind of reminds me of myself when I was young, even though I didn't have an imaginary friend that I talked to that lived in like the roof of my mouth and wagged my finger. What's that, Tony? They said what? But I find Jack Torrance so fascinating. Obviously, Jack Nicholson brings so much to this performance, but the character is so well written, and the little subtleties and setups that pay off along the way are top notch. I also have to shout out Shelley Duvall, who, wait a minute, holy shit. Is Shelley Duvall Clea Duvall's mom in real life? No, she's not. No, she's not. False alarm. Would have been cool. But yeah, The Shining is just one of those movies that obviously is a part of history. It was a cultural phenomenon. But having watched it a little bit later in life and not growing up with it, I don't know. There's just something about the way that it first hit me that'll always just cement it as one of my favorites. But moving on to number 2, I had to bundle together 2 movies because I consider these 2 halves to a whole. It's Andy Muschietti's It Chapter 1 and 2. And I know, wow, that's your number 2, Danny? Well, yes, Pennywise, it is. These movies are like my Lord of the Rings trilogy for horror. Obviously, Stephen King once again laid the groundwork for this, and other iterations, most specifically Tim Curry's Pennywise, did a lot to influence this project. But I feel like they capitalized on everything, and what they came up with was magic. The story of Derry and a killer clown named Pennywise. And Bill Skarsgård's performance is just something to behold, and honestly, it captivated me from the first moment I saw it. Him, along with the child and adult actors, really just brought it all home. And yeah, I'm a big fan. But it is time. Drumroll, please. Sorry, I know it's not Christmas. For my number one pick. And this one is actually pretty easy for me. It's Wes Craven's original Scream. Obviously, it has its own legacy with 5 films so far and the 6th currently on the way, but nothing will ever touch the OG. Wes's brilliance shines so much in this movie, and he's a pioneer of the genre. He really is. He's one of the sole reasons that New Line Cinema got off the ground. Nightmare on Elm Street kind of had an unprecedented huge success, and then that led to a franchise, and well, you can read about it, but it was very impressive. But Scream came later, and honestly, the meta kind of whodunit structure of this film is what has always attracted me so much to it. Creating satire out of real life and playing into stereotypes and cultural dialogue. It's so unique, and once again, let's use the word Ghostface is iconic. Along with the original cast, Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox. We all know them and we all love them, not to mention Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. They're amazing. And I'm forgetting the leading lady herself, Drew Barrymore. And that's the true genius of it. You cast a huge star for the publicity and you kill her off in the first, I think the opening scene is 10 to 15 minutes long. Incredible. I could honestly go on about that movie all day, but if I were ever asked, what's your favorite scary movie? I would say Scream. So, yeah, that's my top 5 list, and I do have some honorable mentions to talk about because there are so many amazing films within the horror genre that just need to be talked about, especially that 5th spot in my list. There was a lot of films competing, and so now, in no specific order, here are my other favorites. Final Destination, Devon Sawa for the win. Halloween, of course, just Michael Myers is just something special. And then Nightmare on Elm Street, because it's Wes Craven and that original is so good. And is that Johnny Depp? Also, It Follows is another movie that I really enjoy. I highly recommend if you haven't watched it. And basically anything that Jordan Peele touches. So that is a bunch of movies to get us ready for spooky season. And now I just want to know what your favorite scary movie is. Let me know down in the comments. It's always really fun to see everybody's different take on this. Different movies hit people differently. They really do, and I would love to hear what your favorite movies are. You can give me a top 5 list in the comments or just your favorite. The point is, I would love to hear from you. And also, if you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and take a second and hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me get seen by more people just like you on YouTube. And also, if you want to join the Jones Vibes community, hit subscribe. I'd love to have you be a part of it. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Jones Vibes Only. And yeah, happy scary times, everybody. But as always, I hope you all are safe, happy, and healthy. And I'll see you next time.
Jones Vibes.